Hey there, and welcome to another Health Essentials podcast. I'm John Horton, your host. Learning how to make friends is part of childhood, and for some kids, it involves a bit of imagination. Nearly 2 out of 3 children hang out with an imaginary friend while growing up. Some kids even carry on that relationship into their teen years. It's all perfectly normal, but that doesn't mean parents don't worry about it. So today, we're going to talk to pediatric psychologist Kate Eshleman about imaginary friends and why they exist in the minds of children. Dr. Eshelman is one of the many experts at Cleveland Clinic who pop into our weekly podcast to chat about issues common in so many of our households. Now let's see what she has to say about the elephant that might be in the room. Welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Eshelman. I always know we're in for a fascinating discussion when your name pops up on the guest list.
I'm so happy to be here and to talk about such a fun topic.
And I got to tell you, prepping for the show really brought up some memories for me. When my daughter was little, she used to talk about purple puppy following her around the house. And the bowls of water that she left all over the floor certainly made her imaginary friend feel very real to us.
I think many people have had experiences with these imaginary friends. I'm not sure they've all had such creative names as Purple Puppy.
Purple Puppy was around for a while. It was a lot of fun. So, many years ago, kids playing with imaginary companions was kind of viewed as a warning sign of a potential mental health issue. Mm-hmm. That take seems a little dated at this point.
It is. At this time, there's no concern for kids having an imaginary friend being a sign of anything other than the child having someone extra to play with that we may not be able to see.
Well, and it's actually considered now like a healthy part of growing up, right?
It is. Kids develop imagination at an early age. And I'm always cautious because we don't want to suggest that kids that don't have imaginary friends are atypical, right? But kids develop imagination at an early age, and this is just one way that they express that creativity.
Well, they do get very creative with it, but they get some other skills too, right? These imaginary friends kind of almost help guide them as they grow up.
Sure. When kids are engaging with their imaginary friends, they're demonstrating and practicing good play skills, good social skills, kind of perspective taking and turn taking. It's kind of the best case scenario of a friendship or relationship.
Well, they never argue back. I mean,
that's right.
That's kind of nice.
That's right. And there is some evidence that with the younger kids, right, that they get to be in charge. When we think about little kids, we're always telling them what to do. It's very rare that they get to really make choices. Sometimes they get fixed choices. Do you want the red shirt or the blue shirt? But they don't get to be fully in charge of their lives. And this is an opportunity to do just that. It's really sounds quite nice, actually.
So what kind of prompts kids to develop these imaginary friends?
There's not a specific thing. So when kids are young, again, when they're developing their imaginations, this is, one way to be creative. So whether they express that through arts and crafts or jewelry making or other kind of imaginary play, but it's just a way of doing so. And so many kids, they're just looking for another pal to have on hand.
Now, what sort of role can an imaginary friend play for your child?
It could be good company. It could be someone to talk to when you're feeling a little lonely or bored. Somebody to have, keep you company at nighttime when it's time to go to bed, or, when the weather's bad and there's a storm. Someone just to be good company, to be around and to play with and keep you occupied.
Do kids even use imaginary friends to kind of problem solve?
They certainly can. You can talk through and practice through scenarios with your imaginary friend. A child can kind of act out the different options and pick the one that seems best and use that one going forward.
And what about even exploring like new concepts and new ideas? I mean, can an imaginary friend kind of guide them to a lot of that?
It gives them practice to do so, right? So you can ask about a new hairstyle, new play space, new clothes. It's also important to recognize that that's filtered through the child's own perception of those things they're trialing out, right? So it does give them practice of trying out those things through their own lens.
Now, is there a standard definition as to what an imaginary friend is, or can it literally be anything a child dreams up?
It really can be anything. I think oftentimes they're perceived as being people or animals, but you think back to a pet rock Or recently, my daughter came home with a bunch of very small white balloons that she's named them all Bob. So really, they can take any shape.
Bob the balloon. I
Bob
like
the
that.
balloon,
That's
very similar to Purple Puppy.
the colors seem to be a big part of these imaginary beings.
Well, when you think about it, the age of development when kids are typically coming up with these friends, those are the concepts they're learning, right? You learn your colors, you learn your animals, you learn your body parts. So they're really, as the kids are developing their imagination, they're applying the concepts that they're learning to these buddies of theirs.
Now, are there certain kids that are more likely to have imaginary friends?
It doesn't really seem so. We think that the younger a child is, 3, 4, 5 is kind of the typical age. 4 or 5 probably is the typical age. I haven't seen any evidence related to, gender. One piece that I saw that was actually understudied is the presence of these in kids that have developmental disabilities or autism spectrum disorders. But as far as I can tell, there's not an age or a child that's more likely to have it than not.
Is there an age where that imaginary friend should sort of leave, or where you kind of want them to kind of part ways?
I think in terms of the should, we look at impact on functioning. So when we look at an imaginary friend, oftentimes they are gone, probably starting around the age of 7 or 8, probably 9 or a little older. What's not clear is if the imaginary friends are truly gone, or if the kids just develop social awareness to not talk about it. The other thing that's happening around that time is that kids are having more consistent social interactions with people, real people, and so they may not need their imaginary friend as much.
Dr. Eshelman, it seems that a lot of parents worry that the appearance of an imaginary friend signals that their child is lonely or stressed. Is there any truth to that?
No. We know as parents, we worry about a lot of things, but the presence of an imaginary friend is nothing to be concerned about. And again, it probably demonstrates positive attributes of the child, the creativity, the resilience. So there's probably more positive attributes attributed to having an imaginary friend, but really nothing at baseline for parents to be concerned about.
Are there times when a parent should be worried about an imaginary friend?
I think that the things that parents want to be mindful of are always if you see a change in behavior. So, if something about the child's behavior changes and they're kind of attributing that to the imaginary friend, we'd want to investigate that more. Certainly, if the imaginary friend is, talking or telling the child to do things that are not safe or encouraging them to make bad choices, those are things that we'd want to look at a little bit more closely. Not automatically problematic, but investigate a little bit more.
Yeah, they start putting bad ideas in their head. It might be time to have a discussion about that relationship.
That's right.
So what tips do you have for parents living with their kid's imaginary friend in the house?
Yeah. I think, and this applies to many things, but approach it with curiosity. It's a great opportunity to engage your child and get them to speak with you about something. So ask questions about the friend as if it were a real friend. Engage, just like if you play dolls with your friends or dolls with your children or cars, you can engage and play with the child around this as well. Embrace it as a positive thing and try not to let it worry or stress you out.
How far can you go with it? I mean, can you even get to the point where you set a spot at the table for the IF?
Yeah, I think part of that is a personal choice, how comfortable you feel as a family. But I think a good rule of thumb is having the same expectations for the imaginary friend as that you have for the people in your house. So sure, feel free to set out bowls of water or set a plate at the table, but don't go out of your way making special meals or buying expensive dog food.
Well, we did not buy Purple Puppy any dog food. We figured that they could handle imaginary food too. So
yes, they do tend to be relatively low maintenance and low cost, hopefully.
And maybe this is hopeful, but can you also, as a parent, count on an imaginary friend to keep your kid occupied from time to time? Might just give you that few minutes you need to fold the load.
It is certainly a possibility, right? When kids have these imaginary friends, that they do spend time playing with them. And so that is certainly that you can encourage, something you can encourage your child to do is go play with Bob and while I'm folding this laundry, and I'll be back in a few minutes.
If only the imaginary friend could answer all those why questions, they'd be perfect.
That's right. And actually, if Bob could fold the laundry, I'd rather play with the kid while the imaginary friend is doing the work.
Yeah, Dr. Eshelman, I have to be honest. After all this talk about imaginary friends, I'm starting to miss Purple Puppy. So before I head to the kitchen and set out a bowl of water for old time's sake, do you have anything else to add about kids and their imaginary friends?
I think, again, just embrace them. Take the opportunity to engage with your child about it. Welcome the imaginary friend into the home unless he starts causing trouble. And if you have any questions or concerns, always reach out to someone. Talk to your pediatrician, talk to your friends who are parents. Get additional information if you have concerns about what's going on.
That's great advice, Dr. Eshelman. Thank you very much for coming in today, and make sure to say hello to Bob for me.
I will do that.
We can't see them, of course, but imaginary friends are tagging along with kids all around us. Consider it a wonderful and whimsical part of childhood, and a mental exercise that can bring real benefits. Just watch out for water bowls left out if that imaginary friend is a puppy. If you liked what you heard today, please hit the subscribe button and leave a comment to share your thoughts. Till next time, be well.